But our first stop is actually among the rolling prairies of Fayette County. You see, this area was settled by Germans and Czechs, who brought their culture to Texas, establishing small communities anchored by small churches. But what may look ordinary on the outside is hiding something extraordinary inside what are known as the Painted Churches of Texas. You know, touring churches isn't exactly our thing. Maybe there's another PBS tour guide more suited for this.
Hi, I'm Chet Steves. Welcome to the heartland of the Lone Star State as we tour the Painted Churches of Texas and get a taste of old world craftsmanship right here in the new. Thanks for joining us.
Yes, this guy will be perfect. He's always in churches. Let's see what he can teach us.
After the Moors sacked Spain, the Romans fled and settled Texas to build this church.
I'm not sure that's right.
With the support of the Inuit tribes and the British Royal Navy, they gathered here to write the Magna Carta, inscribing it on stone tablets with chisel and saw.
Nope, not true.
And after Rasputin had stolen the pieces of Stonehenge, they were recovered by Chiang Kai-shek, brought here to Texas and used as the cornerstone of this foundation. Sure.
Okay, bad idea. Chet Steves should probably stick to Europe with his brother Rick. Let's call in a Texas expert. Judge Ed Yanechka.
Well, Chet, welcome to Dubina. Dubina is the first Czech community that was started from scratch by people from what is today the Czech Republic, Moravia. In the 1880s, there were 600 families going to church here. And you have to remember, there wasn't a Schulenburg, there wasn't a Weimar. There were just these small communities because the railroad hadn't come through yet.
So a new world, a new life for these immigrants. Do you think it was the church that gave them the comfort, sort of?
Always. That was the one thing that kept everything together.
And in an effort to recreate the magnificent churches of the motherland and to honor God with their work, these settlers built churches that would become the cornerstones of their communities. Small glimpses of heavenly glory here on earth. But as with many things, the hands of time weren't so gentle on these paintings, and they were painted over.
And I remember as an altar boy, I used to kneel right over here, and as the sun would hit it just about right, I could see the sun coming through, and you could see the stenciling behind that. And one of my goals was always to try to restore it back to the way it was originally. And I had one picture of when it was first painted. And so we set up scaffolding after Mass, and it was like an archaeological find. We found a little hand here and there and whatever, and then we found the remnants of an angel, and then the entire congregation came back and we put back its stencils exactly the way that you see them today. So the church is almost exactly the way it was. You know, I'm a great believer in heritage, and the least we can do is try to preserve the history and the heritage of the folks that brought here, and you know, we still do that. But it's just, you sit here, and you're proud of the fact, but the greatest thing is that we still have a place to worship, and we're blessed that we have a priest that comes by. Sunday morning, the church is full.
Yes, faith is still a cornerstone of this community, both here in Dubina and the other painted churches that dot the landscape, offering those willing to step inside a journey to another country, but right here in Texas.
So while the Czech communities built churches in Dubina and Ammonsville, the congregation here in High Hill was German, and they built this amazing work of art, St. Mary's, the queen of the painted churches.
I mean, you would never know these were here if you just passed by, and they look just as vibrant as they did 100 years ago.
So this is definitely some of the most ornate stained glass I've ever seen. You know, the church walls are painted, the ceiling is beautiful, but what's also painted is the light pouring in through these amazing windows. So the first time I came in here, I honestly thought that these columns were marble, and you have to get this close to them to tell any different. But they're actually painted wood, all done by hand, but it looks exactly like marble. I mean, you think of the time that went into getting all these patterns just perfect. It's incredible.
In total, there are about 7 painted churches in this part of Texas. Each is totally different, including this one up the road in Ammonsville.
So this is actually the 3rd church built here in Ammonsville. The first was destroyed by a hurricane, and less than 10 years later, the second was destroyed by a fire. But rather than give up, the church was so important to this community that they immediately started building this one.
So officially, it's St. John the Baptist Church. But for obvious reasons, many just call it the Pink One. And while Pepto may not be your favorite shade, you have to admit, it's still something to see.
Okay, I may butcher this, but deliciae me esse cum filis hominum. Translated to, I find delight in the sons of men. And I mean, you look at this church and these painted churches, and I truly believe that they've built something that God does find delight in. It's just so beautiful.
We must always remember that it wasn't just people who built Texas. It was families, communities, and cultures. Communities like these, grounded in tradition and devout in their faith. And these churches are simply evidence of something much deeper that still holds Texas together today. To see the full episode or to get info about how to visit this spot, trip on over to thedaytripper.com.